But I'm just like, you're not ugly, bro, but you don't have like the best bod.
Oh, Pa is flying a kite. And I think Carolyn and Mary comment that they didn't know he could fly a kite.
I didn't know that
He needed skills. It's like literally if there's wind, you just kind of start running.
He
and it
did
goes
get it really high up there.
That's what she said. Just waiting for it.
Trying to make sure his family eats is a sin, and going and listening to this old fart yap is the only thing that can save him from his great iniquities. Hello, everyone. Amanda here.
And this is Riley, and welcome back to another episode of Little House, Big Opinions.
You've probably heard of the show, Little House on the Prairie. We grew up being told the tale was wholesome, cozy, and oh so sweet. But I swear there's something tragic in like half of all the scenes.
I mean, seriously, did the writers run out of themes?
They said it's just some drama, but I think it sparked our trauma.
We're both totally fine now, though.
So now we're rewatching the show and talking about it as we go. This is Little House, Big Opinions. I guess we'll see how this goes.
Today we will be delving into, I think it's technically officially episode 1 and 2 since the pilots.
Yeah,
as we discussed previously. So technically episodes 1 and 2. So episode 1, Harvest of Friends, and then episode 2, Country Girls. But overall, let's say these episodes are pretty wholesome.
pretty mild compared to the pilot, I feel like. They're a little more cozy.
A little more cozy, a little more quintessential.
Yes.
Little House. I have just a little tidbit of Little House lore for us.
I'm excited.
Okay, so this is the episode where Melissa, which is the actor that plays Laura,
Melissa Gilbert.
and then Allison, I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I looked it up. It's
Is
like
this Nellie?
Algarth, who plays Nellie, became friends because they were actually pretty good friends as castmates. So because this is the first episode where we really see Nellie, this is where their friendship began. And then another fact, Allison passed out during filming due to the heat and her wig and her many layered dress costume.
Yes.
So yes, those perfect corkscrew curls that we see, not natural. That's a wig.
That's a wig.
That's the wig. So poor thing passed, but
And we kind of already talked about it as it happened, but Michael Landon was very vain and I don't know if I think that we just made this up, but it's like a headcanon for me that he like had it in his contract that he had to be shirtless as much as possible.
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
he
actually
directed
did that.
multiple episodes, so I think he was just like, let's make me shirtless in this scene.
Yeah.
Did he really have to be shirtless for us to just like, he
No.
could have just been in bed and the doctor could have been there and been like, you need to rest, you've got 4
Yeah.
broken ribs, but instead it was like, let's wrap him up.
Yeah.
And show, which like is kind of funny because this is going on a rabbit hole a little bit. But don't get me wrong, like Michael Landon is not an unattractive man,
Yeah.
and he's got good hair,
Yeah.
but he doesn't have like, does he have a 6-pack?
No.
He does.
Was that a thing then?
I don't know. So maybe for
'Cause
the
it's
time,
genetic.
maybe for the time it was like his bod was the ultimate bod.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, you're not ugly, bro, but you don't have like the best bod.
Yeah, I think I had a crush on him when I was little.
I mean,
And
he has a
Albert.
nice
We'll get
tan.
to Albert later.
He's
but-
got nice pecs.
Yeah.
I guess.
I guess.
Alrighty, so let's delve into episode 1. So the Ingalls move to Plum Creek, Walnut Grove. This is my first question. What is the distinction? Because they refer to it as both.
Maybe Plum Creek is the city, but it's not really a city. And
I'm
Walnut Grove
wondering
is the town.
I'm wondering if that's kind of what I was thinking, because they do live next to a creek and they do have to hike a ways into town. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking maybe their house is
Okay.
on Plum Creek and then Walnut Grove is the name of the town.
Yeah.
That was my guess.
I wonder if we ever get that clarification.
If there was one, I did not catch it. I just remember it being referred to as both. We're looking it up.
Yeah, we'll see. Little House. You can continue. I will let you know.
Okay. So, Pa's working at the mill to earn lumber to build a house. The boss at the mill is very nice. He's very friendly. Makes a deal with Pa so that he can work at the mill in exchange for lumber. He trades their cows with the same guy for oxen because he needs something bigger to pull the plow. So we have this whole scene of just shots of him building house, working on the house. And I'm wondering, where were they living in the meantime?
Yeah, I was wondering about that because I feel like they got the house to such a complete state so quickly. But they started out at kind of like a little shack, like the opening scene.
That's true.
So maybe they stayed
Maybe
there
there was
while they
some-
were building. I also
Um,
feel like they had to have a lot of money
Yeah.
to get it to where it was.
Well, but Pod doesn't have any money. That's what he
Right.
specifically says is he needs to make trades
Yeah.
to get the plow and the seed
But
and
they
stuff because he
had
has to have
like
cash.
windows. They had nice glass windows.
Right. So that leads us into the house. So once they finish the house, this one is way nicer than the one in Kansas.
Considerably.
The windows is something
Mhm.
I was wondering, how did they make that fireplace?
Yes. I
That-
love the mantle,
that-
which I think it's the same mantle because unless they just wanted to make it similar to show that that was like a thing that they did, because in the first episode, C and C on the
Mhm.
is carved into the mantle for Charles and Carolyn, and it is again carved into the mantle for this one too.
I see. So
So maybe they took some of
the stuff, or maybe they just carved it again. Nice
Yeah.
little touch.
I don't know.
They have a full-on like fireplace that the house is built around. It's not even like on the side of the house. It's
Yeah.
kind of in the center, which is what astonished me. And the girls and Carolyn note this. Mary says that this is the best house they've ever had, and Laura's freaking out over having a window in their bedroom. Carolyn is over the moon about the windows and the wood floors and separate bedrooms,
Yeah.
which I bet she is. She hasn't had beef in ages.
Okay, hold on. Not really related to that, but Plum Creek is the Creekside farmstead. So that is their farmstead.
Okay,
And Walnut Grove is the town.
that's what we guessed. Look at us, big brains. Yeah, so we do the survivability rating.
Right.
And could I survive and much worse? Probably. But this moment here when they are ecstatic about their windows and their wood floors really made me realize how much I would complain on the prairie.
Yeah.
I was thinking about my heating pad and weighted blanket and all that I need to fall asleep.
Yes. Sound machine,
Yes.
fan. Yeah.
So, house is done.
Relatively quickly too. We just kind of jump into that being done. So we don't really get any settling. They are settled and ready to go.
You want to take the next part?
Sure. So from there, we see Pa go into town because he needs to make money for them, or he's trying to get the oxen, right?
He's
For
got the
farm.
oxen. He's trying to get some plow and seed.
Okay. He's trying to get some plow and seed. So he goes and introduces himself to two of my favorite characters, the Olsons. And it's Nels and why am I blanking on her name? Harriet. She is my favorite. I
Because
promise.
they're usually referred to as Mr. and Mrs. Olson.
Nels and Harriet. And I feel like they make quite an impression.
They do.
Nels comes across just as how he actually is, very charming, kind, down to earth, very much, I feel like, a man of the people. He just wants to help the people in his town.
Yes. However, one note I did have was he was not by any means rude or anything in this scene, but
He wasn't going to let him just have.
yes. And normally, like, Nels kind of tries to go out of his way to help
Mhm.
people. Maybe it's because Charles was new, but, Pa comes and he asks about getting some seed in return for a pledge of his first crop.
Yes.
Because he doesn't have any money. And Nell says, well, I think Harriet jumps in.
Yeah,
And
I
she's like, we only do that for some
Like,
people,
that we know really well.
which is kind of valid.
Yeah.
She was very snotty about it.
Yeah, which is
Um,
one of the reasons why I love her. I like how snooty and like stuck in her ways she is.
She's very, she's not very nice about it, but it is a fairly valid point.
Yeah.
They haven't ever met this dude. Nels is nicer about it, but he's like, please understand, like, we need the money so that we can buy the goods to sell in our mercantiles, so we can't really, give credit out willy-nilly. So Pa storms off.
Willy-nilly.
Okay, yeah, if you aren't a Little House fan, then you wouldn't quite get that joke. They have two children whose names are Willie and Nellie. So
Perfect.
little house humor for you there. Okay, so then
They obviously turn him down, and he goes to another guy, O'Neill, who sells the plows and seed. And this guy seems a little bit like a shyster to me. I
Yeah.
feel like he just automatically comes across as maybe not the best guy, but obviously they don't really have another choice. So Charles says, I don't have any money, but I can work for you. So he offers to fix his roof in exchange for the plow and seed. And the guy, do you want to tell them
yeah,
a summary of what
O'Neill
says?
is just kind of like, bro, I'm gonna need more than that. Just fixing my roof isn't enough. It's actually pretty funny because he's like, who's going to pay for the supplies? And Charles is like, well, you. I just said I don't have any money. And he's like, okay, so I'm paying for the supplies. All you're doing is fixing my roof. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's not going to be enough. So he says, I've got some grain sacks coming in from Mankato, the big city. Then you can have the plow and the seed. But he says, since I'm giving you the plow and the seed now to get started on your farming, in exchange for this, like, I need something to kind of
Sweeten the deal.
yeah, confirm that you're not going to bail on the work. So he says, if you're not done in 3 weeks, I want your oxen.
Risky trade, Pa.
But Pa doesn't have a choice. He agrees. So he's going to be working for this guy in the morning and then at the mill in the afternoon. And they shake on it.
Which, did he get the job at the mill prior to this? In between the...
Yes, he's already been working at the mill, even before he built the house, because...
Oh, so maybe that's how he got the money.
Well, that's how he got the supplies.
Okay.
Because the guy that owns the mill is very nice. So he says you can take the lumber and pay it off through work. So he works for the guy, takes the lumber, builds the house.
Okay.
So it does explain how he got the majority of the materials, but I'm just like, how did he get the fireplace and the windows and that sort of stuff?
The beds.
But
Because they were sleeping on, like, cots before.
But
anyways.
Charles is a where there's a will, there's a way, you know? So Carolyn is worried it's going to be too much on Charles. She says, you're not going to get enough rest. And he reassures her that, you know, it's only for a few weeks. He can do it. And she says, I believe you can. And then there's this close-up of Charles and Carolyn caressing each other's hands. That's a little weird.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, so it's actually funny. They do a close-up.
Is it on the table? Or
Yes, like
Okay.
they're like holding hands across the table. And in the scene before, there's a close-up of him and the guy shaking on it.
Okay.
Which, whatever, but it kind of makes sense. But then in this scene, they zoom in on Charles and Carolyn's hands, and they're not just holding hands, like they're kind of playing handsy. Yeah.
I did notice that was something between episode 1 and 2. The filming style changed a lot.
Yes.
And
Got some close-ups now.
I feel like even between 2 and 3, it changed. Like, it seems like they kind of started to get their footing. I feel like the very close pan-ins on things was like Bonanza.
Yeah.
Because I feel like they zoomed in really close anytime there was like an end of a dramatic scene.
Which leads me to another interesting filming choice. Well, before I move on to that, there's just this, they're eating breakfast and Carrie just shouts out, I want molasses. And this is a classic Carrie moment.
Carrie.
So we couldn't move forward without mentioning that.
She really is the comic relief of the show.
Yes. Charles is on his way to work. And he meets Doc Baker, who has a broken wheel. So Pa helps him fix his wagon and asks for Baker to give him a ride into town. So they're talking on the way and basically just small talk. Like Doc Baker is like, oh, I heard you came from Kansas. And they're just making small talk. The whole time they're having this conversation, which is at least like 30 seconds to a minute long, they don't show them talking. It's the wagon. It's like looking at the wagon from a distance.
Oh.
The camera shot. And it just has their voices, like what they're saying.
I don't remember.
But it's not
weird.
Like, it doesn't show them at all. So that was an interesting filming choice.
Maybe they dubbed it.
You want to lead us into this next segment?
Oh, okay, yes, because this is what my next note.
This is a part that
about
probably triggered Riley and
yes.
I on the same level.
So Pa is obviously so tired because he's been working tons of jobs and just helping anybody he can to help take care of his family. And it's Sunday, and Carolyn is really set on them going to church. It's their first time, which I don't know what they've been doing this entire time.
I think they've been to church before.
Okay. For some reason, I was thinking she said it was their first time, but
I think Laura says we looked forward to Sundays, a day of rest.
okay.
And then, yeah.
Okay. So they've gone to church.
Carolyn is just getting the girls ready. Carolyn sees Charles sleeping. He's still in bed. She has the girls ready, and she kind of gives this loving look and just takes the girls out. So you can tell, like, she's leaving him there to rest because he is exhausted. She leaves Charles at home to sleep. They're in church, and while they're in church,
I'm remembering after the fact.
Okay.
When she says, I have a quote from her.
Okay, I'll fill this part. Okay. So I put this bitch asshole of a preacher talks about seeing people missing from the congregation.
Oh.
It's just the classic pastor. He's looking down on the congregation with disdain. He's like, I see a lot of people missing from our congregation. I'm very disappointed. I see a lot of wives without their husbands. And he talks about how it is only through asking God for forgiveness and going to church that one can be cleansed of their sins.
Of course.
So I guess Paul trying to make sure his family eats is a sin, and going and listening to this old fart yap is the only thing that can save him from his great iniquities.
Which he wouldn't have even heard anything. He would have just heard him bitching about
Exactly.
people not being there.
Exactly. And then he's like, now let us sing our closing hymn while you reflect on this. Come, sinner, come. So he's really just driving it home. And the girls are walking home, and Laura says, like, she didn't love church that day. He's like, well, duh. And Mary's like, I know why. Chimes in with her. She's like, it's because Reverend said that Pa was a sinner. And Carolyn chimes in, and she's pretty reasonable here. She's like, no, that's not true. I think he was talking about people that never go to church. And your Pa's a good man. And, you know, he's very tired, and he needed his rest. But then she sees him plowing in the field. When she left, he was asleep in bed. And now she sees him plowing the field.
So he's working. And of course, Sabbath is supposed to be non-working day. So that just really sets her off.
And there's some music as she storms over, very heated.
Very angrily.
And do you want to share?
I don't remember what Charles says exactly.
He says that he woke up and they were gone. And he's like, what did you expect me to do? Like, just sit around? So the field needs to be plowed.
So I'm going to do it.
God's not going to do it. So.
And then she says, that's sacrilegious. And she like gives him a very stern look that she can't believe that he would say that sort of thing.
So she freaks out, but then in the evening, she has her moment of forgiveness. And she's like, I'm just worried about you. I'm not actually upset about that.
And it shows her reading her Bible in bed.
Yes, she's like reading her Bible in bed while he's just sitting there watching. Like she's trying to be like, look at me.
And I
than you.
I was like, seeing her read her Bible in bed sort of gives me PTSD.
But they talk it out. They're all good. So Charles has finished the roof. He's worked enough at the mill to not only pay off the lumber he used for the house, but also get some money. So he's feeling real good. He comes home, comes in, and is all chipper. And he says, I'm starving, woman. Get me my dinner while I wash up. That's literally what he says.
Yeah.
And he says it in kind of like a playful way, but even still, it's just like, okay. And Carolyn, you can tell she's upset. And at first, like, I just thought she was upset because Charles has been working so much. So I was annoyed with Carolyn at first. I'm like, why are you, like, sure, he shouldn't be like, get me my supper, woman. But I was like, why are you annoyed? Like, he's working really hard to support the family. But then we find out the reason Carolyn is upset is because Charles has been snapping at the girls. He says, where are the girls?
Shocking.
And they're in bed. And he's like, isn't it pretty early for them to be in bed? And she's like, I just thought it would be easier so they wouldn't be underfoot.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, have I been that bad? And she's, So he's like, let me go talk to them. And then he says,
very passive aggressive.
Yeah. But he says, okay, go get my supper, like 3 times during this conversation. This man is
woman, get my food.
Get my food. But so he goes up to see Mary and Laura and tells them a bedtime story about a grumpy farmer who doesn't have time for his wife and his 3 pretty little girls. And Mary and Laura share a knowing look like, hey, is this story about us? But at the end of the story, he says the farmer realizes he's being grumpy, and so he decides to take them for a picnic. And in classic Little House fashion, we have a pretty wholesome moment for a total of, once again, 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
They're having a picnic. They're
laughing,
racing, having a good old time.
Oh, Pa is flying a kite. And I think Carolyn and Mary comment that they didn't know he could fly a kite.
I didn't know that
there needed skills. It's like literally if there's wind, you just kind of start running.
He
and
did get it really high up there. That's what she said.
Just wait for it.
But so maybe there's some skill in kite flying. But so do you want to tell them what happens with this kite situation?
Yes. So again, this lasts all of maybe like 10 seconds where they're really impressed by Pa's kite flying abilities. And then he gets it stuck in a tree. But he's like, it's okay, I'll get it. So he decides to go climb the tree to get the kite. And it was in this moment that I said, he's definitely about to fall. And as soon as I thought that, there he went, he fell, and we have our first shirtless Charles scene.
Yes, I wrote about that too. But before that, I don't want to skip out on. First of all, this fall is like
dramatic.
One, how many feet would you think that is?
It's up high.
It looked like 40 feet. Like, it was a tall tree. He was up there. And we get a really classic scream from Carolyn. But my favorite is that she screams. You can see like the look of shock and horror on Mary and Laura's face, and all three of them take off running towards Pa. And we get absolutely no reaction from Carrie. Carrie is still like staring off into space with her little smile on her face, like, hey, all
She's
is
living her best life.
all is good in Carrie land. So Carolyn reaches Pa, who is moaning, and sends Laura for a wagon and Doc Baker. And I made a note. This is a perfect way for Michael Landon to work in a shirtless moment.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So Doc Baker says he needs at least a week to 10 days of rest
Okay. A week to 10 days for.
in prairie times.
That is ridiculous. That's crazy. They can't mend that quickly.
No. Yeah. I guess
Maybe bones were quicker at mending back then.
maybe they had special prairie bones. So obviously Charles is distraught that he won't be able to do the work, but his nice boss at the mill, his name is Mr. Hanson, he's like, I'll go talk to the other guy. Carolyn is like, well, don't worry about it. You need to get better. So she does the plowing, and Charles doesn't like this, but Carolyn is adamant. However, O'Neill, the guy that lent him plow and stuff, doesn't give a shit. So he comes and takes the oxen
From Ma.
from Ma. She's
As
out
she's-
plowing the fields.
She's trying to help.
So Pa is all angry, and he's like, I'm gonna go have a talk with him. And Carolyn is like, no, Charles, don't. He's like, I am. When he gets there, he is like, hey, the day isn't over yet. I technically have until midnight to finish the work, so you just stole my oxen from me. Guy's like, nah, I saved you a trip, because there's no way you're getting the work
Yeah.
done, buddy.
Yeah.
And Pa has finished the roof. He just hasn't finished
The
stacking
of the hay.
stacking of the hay bags, grain bags. So he technically has until midnight. So he starts to work, and he struggles to get even a few grain bags
Yeah.
stacked. And Mary and Laura watch from a distance crying.
Yeah, I liked that. They followed him and it just showed them.
So there's just this very long scene of him like struggling to drag the grain bags over and lift them up, and Mary and Laura watching from a distance crying. And then there's also townsmen watching from a distance, and they're not doing anything
Yeah,
yet.
they're
Like
just watching.
they're just watching. So it takes Pa trying to climb to the top of the stack, because he's like, stacking them really high, and he's trying to climb to the top of the stack, and he falls down.
And this, I think between the two, I like this fall better because I feel like it's more dramatic.
Yes. So he topples down, and Mary and Laura run to him crying.
Oh yeah, they're so sad.
So Mary and Laura start stacking, and then finally the townsmen are like,
Oh, okay.
maybe this guy needs some help.
I think is it Doc Baker and Hanson that are the first ones to go?
Yes, because they have a relationship with
Yeah.
Charles and know him, and Charles has helped them both out. So they go and start stacking, and then other people join in. Nels even comes
Yeah.
and assists. So, but my favorite part is that during all this, nobody he's not unconscious.
Yeah, but they don't really check on it.
Nobody checks on Charles or helps him up. He's just still laying on the floor, with his head barely propped up and his hands clutching his ribs, watching all of this happen.
Yeah, kind of crumpled.
And it seems like it's taking a while for them.
Yeah.
They form an assembly line and are stacking, and he's just laying there. And then the guy O'Neill tries not to look like a dick, but no one's falling for it. He's trying to be like, once I saw the little ones stacking
I was
up,
going to go back.
I was gonna go back, but nobody's falling for it. But in the end, they get the grain stacked. Charles gets his oxen back. Hanson wants him to keep working for him calf days and stuff. So it all ends up okay.
And things are good. Which I do think that most of the episodes have a happy ending, except for the two-parters. Overall happy.
Mhm.
I feel like things are resolved with family.
I think we should keep account for every season.
Okay.
And
Oh
we
yeah, I
should-
guess the first episode.
Yeah.
Did-
And we should do happy ending or not happy ending. And then we can see how it totals up per season, and then
Yeah, that's a good
for,
idea.
for the show.
It's good.
We're gonna do some stats over here. We'll combine our average trauma rankings for each. Yeah. Get to the nitty gritty. Alrighty. I feel like I talked a lot for that one.
Okay.
So try to
Okay.
be a little quieter for our episode 2, Country Girls.
I didn't have my random thoughts for this one, so I'm just remembering. Okay, but these are Manda's notes. So, short synopsis. Mary and Laura start school where they face the formidable Nellie Oleson. This is our first introduction to Nellie, and I also love Nellie. Laura, hesitant about school at first, develops a fondness for their kind teacher, Miss Beadle, which we can talk about Miss Beadle later because I feel like she's in the episodes more and more frequently. But she's not the best teacher. I don't think that she wouldn't be hired today.
I commend her for teaching so many children of varying ages. However,
I feel like teach is a loose word though for her.
yeah, the classroom dynamic is a little off.
Yeah.
We'll say her classroom management skills, her community building skills are a little bit poor.
Yeah. So Laura enjoys learning to read and write, and she does so fairly quickly. I feel like I was impressed with how diligent she was and how she learned in such
The
a
one thing
short
is we
time.
never know how long of a time span these episodes take place over. Sometimes it gives us some indication as to, but just like with the house being built,
Right.
there's no like, it took them 2 weeks to build the house. It's just like, we didn't have a house and now we do. And kind of same thing. Like there's just multiple like short scenes of Laura working at reading and writing.
Yeah.
But it's like, this could have been like
months, year,
like, weeks. It could have been
months. I was thinking the house, not her learning to read and write.
Yeah, it could have taken her a whole year, maybe 2, 3.
Yeah. So when it's time to give a special presentation at school, Laura delivers a heart-wrenching tribute to Carolyn and learns some life lessons in the process. Now it's coming back to me. I'm remembering this now. Okay. So at the beginning of the episode, Laura will not get out of bed. She does not want to go to school, and Pa has to come and coax her out of the bed. And then Ma gives them her school books,
Which are still good, by the way.
Yeah.
The books that Carolyn used
when she was their age. Or was it her books from when she taught?
Could be. But even still, from the historical accuracy perspective, I don't know if this show is Carolyn stopped teaching when she got married.
Oh, okay.
So even still, like they have to be at least like 10 years old.
Yeah.
So we're not getting yearly editions.
No.
But hey, you don't need that much to teach you how to read and do maths.
And Laura asks, how long will all this learning take?
And Carolyn responds, Carolyn responds, until you die, which isn't exactly what she says. She says, until the good Lord calls us home or something like that. But basically, until you die.
Can you imagine hearing that as a child? Like,
you're like, geez, how long do I have to go to
serious?
Like, especially because, like, what Laura is really asking is, how long do I have to go to school for? Which, like, give the kids some hope. I think back then it wasn't even, like, up until 12th grade. Like, just a few years, you know? Like,
yeah. So they obviously go to the school, and they get there, and all of the other children are out in the schoolyard. And Laura comments that they sound like a bunch of chickens.
Because they're all chattering, and then as soon as they get there, they just stop and stare at them, and there's just dead silence. So Laura's, trying to like crack a joke, lighten the mood.
Crack a joke about chickens.
But so I can't remember if she says that I think she said, you guys sound like a bunch of chickens, like when they were playing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what she says. To which the other children respond, snipe yourself, snipe, long-legged snipes. Which we need to explain the context of this. So before they go to, so context of this is that before they leave for school, Ma notes that their dresses are getting a little short, but she can't let the hems out anymore because she's done it so many times already. So their dresses are a little short. They have stockings on underneath. They're not shockingly short or anything, but compared to the
other girls,
yes, they're a little bit short. So that's why they are called the long-legged snipes. And
I didn't know what a snipe was. So we looked it up, and it's like a little sandpiper, kind of.
That's what it looks like.
Yeah, but it doesn't have long legs.
I mean, it's got like spindly legs, but they're not that long. And so I feel like a bird with longer legs would be more appropriate. Maybe like an ostrich.
Yes.
Like
okay.
Ostrich, long-legged ostrich. But yeah, so, and then we have them meet Nellie. For the first time, we see Nellie, and she calls them country girls and mocks them for their lack of knowledge.
Yeah, which is, I am always shocked. I feel like it's a recurring theme that at the school, all of the children are just assholes.
Yes.
The kids are some of the meanest
especially
kids.
when there's somebody new.
Yes.
And Miss Beadle is like either just doesn't really do that much, or she's oblivious to it.
Yeah.
Which, like, valid at the end of the year. Just kind of like, whatever, bro.
Why are they just now going to school?
That's what, so
They had to help build?
I don't know, because obviously they weren't helping to build. So I don't know if Ma was just like trying to give them a little bit of time to get acclimated.
Yeah.
I know that they followed a schedule that had to do with like planting. So maybe because it
Okay.
was planting time,
Oh,
because Pa was
maybe
planting, that
some
like school
kids
was
just-
out,
okay.
because I'm not sure. There's
Okay.
there's a fallacy here.
Yeah.
We don't have an explanation for that. We also don't have an explanation for why Mary knows how to read, but Laura
And Laura
doesn't.
And I feel like they're not that
Maybe,
far apart in
Like,
age.
the actresses are 1 year apart in age.
Okay.
I
Feel
think
like
in the story it's
It's
supposed to be like
3 years.
2, maybe 3, but
Yeah.
even still, I mean, Laura at a minimum has to be 8, I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
And Carolyn has taken the time to teach Mary how to read,
Right.
but not Laura.
But not Laura.
So we don't have an explanation for that. It probably in real life, Laura Ingalls knew how to read
Yeah.
and write, and her mom had taught her, but Michael Landon really just wanted an episode
Yeah.
focusing on the education of Laura. So we have that. But Nellie mocks them for their lack of knowledge, which shows up a couple of times. You want to
Yeah.
give us an example,
Yeah.
Riley?
So they are sitting in the schoolhouse, and I think they're working on math, spelling.
Yeah,
something
math.
That
Yeah.
Miss Beadle calls a kid up to the board, the chalkboard, and Willie is the lucky one that gets called up to the chalkboard. So Willie is Nellie's little brother, which again, he's one of my favorite characters. I just like the the Olsons all around. So he's writing on the chalkboard, and Laura asks how it's going to come off because they don't know what a chalkboard is, and all of the kids proceed to laugh at them
Like,
and make
all of
fun
them.
of them.
And
Miss Beadle doesn't really say much. She's, oh, it's a chalkboard or something.
she asks Willie to demonstrate.
How to erase. Yeah.
All of the kids are assholes.
They're so mean.
Yeah.
Like, whether it's making fun of them, just laughing at them, not paying attention to them, pushing them in the dirt.
Yes. Multiple
Yeah.
things like that.
Especially if they're different. If their parents have kept them from school because they've needed their help or something, they really just take
Unless it's a hot
Funny.
boy. Then there's no issues.
Yeah. Then they have fights over them.
Yeah. Laura ends up loving school. She likes Miss Beadle a lot. I
And
don't know why.
I feel like we have to mention, because I feel like it kind of becomes a thing, that Laura immediately says that Miss Beadle smells really good.
Yeah, she smells like lemon
verbena.
which pops up multiple times.
Yes.
I don't know why she likes Miss Beadle that much. Maybe just because she's nice enough to Laura and Mary, but it just
Yeah.
doesn't feel like she does that much to protect them from the taunting of the other children.
I don't know if it was just commonplace then, but I'm thinking about, did you ever watch the show Christy?
I've seen episodes.
Okay, that would be another one to deep dive on. But in that one, the teachers a lot of the time came from bigger cities to the small towns. So
So
I
it's
think
the
kids
allure of
kind
the perfume and
Yeah.
the knowledge,
and
the
I
education.
feel like Miss Beadle does always have nicer clothes.
Yes, yeah.
So maybe it's
Fancy hairdo.
just
I think
kind
she's
of-
got a perm up in those bangs.
Yeah, she does for sure.
Yeah, so she comes home, she tells Ma and Pa that school was great, she does like it, but she tells them about Nellie and says that she's a, real piece of work. And Ma reminds her to do unto others. Pa then presents Mary and Laura with a dime, I believe, to purchase their slates for school. They go to the mercantile. When they arrive at the mercantile, Nellie and Willie come down, and you want to...
And they are saying something about the candy.
Yeah,
And they can get as much candy as they want because
they start
own-
stuffing
so they
their
just-
faces with
Yeah,
candy.
they eat as much candy as possible. Again, just so mean.
And they're like, we can get as much as we want. We own it. So Nels tries to get them to chill, but they don't
Nels-
listen to him.
Nels has no control.
No. So they buy the slates, but then Nels points out, hey, you're gonna need a slate pencil. And Nellie correctly says, I don't think the country girls have enough money for a slate pencil. And they don't, and so they're distraught. Nels offers to give it to them. He's like, your pa can pay me back for it later, but they're like, no, we're not gonna do that. So they are distraught until they remember their Christmas pennies,
Those good old Christmas pennies.
which we referenced in our pilot episode. So they decide that they'll use one of the Christmas pennies and then they'll share the other. And I'm just like, y'all haven't spent it yet?
yeah,
Like, they've been holding on to this penny for
while.
since Christmas in Kansas, which has to have been like, it's got to be like months, if not like a year at this point. Oh, man, if I could have that kind of self-control with money.
Yeah. As soon as I get a penny, I spend it.
And so then we have this montage of Laura learning, and she talks about how she likes math and she likes reading, but writing is really difficult and she struggles to write words like Mary does. We have this scene of her reading Dickie Birdland with Miss Beadle, which was a real book, and yeah, a classic one at that. And then we have our first kind of conflict with Laura and Nellie.
Oh, yes. Laura wants to play a different game than Nellie wants to, and they have an argument about that. But since Laura is listening to what Ma said, she decides just to turn the other cheek, and she lets Nellie have her way, as always, and they play her game.
And then we have, I think Laura mentions this again to Ma and Pa, and then they're talking about it, and Charles is kind of like, hey, I get it, because if the kid is like the mom, then she right. And so Carolyn is like, but then Carolyn goes in the next day to the mercantile to sell some eggs, and there we have the battle between Mrs. Oleson and Carolyn, Mrs. Ingalls.
Yeah. And that kind of is a short snippet of a scene. There's not a whole lot that goes on, and Carolyn doesn't really do much. She needs to sell the eggs, so she basically takes the money that she's offered, even though it's less than what she thought it should be.
So specifically what Harriet says, the eggs are brown, and she says that brown eggs are 4 cents less than white eggs,
which is shocking.
Yes.
Now they're like 40 cents more.
Yeah, but whatever. So she says that she'll pay less, and you can tell Carolyn is annoyed, but she's like, hey, we need the money. So she sells them anyways. But then we have
culmination of Laura's
battle with Nellie, and then Carolyn's battle with Harriet.
Props to them for showing the kind of parallel,
the duality.
Yes, of how bullying can show up for children, and then for also.
Yeah, I get bullied every day.
Do you really talk about this?
No. No, that's what therapy is for.
Which, fun fact, we see the same therapist.
Yeah. We don't have to talk about each other to the therapist because we just,
she knows.
Yeah.
She knows everything.
Yeah.
But I do always, if I'm like about to tell her something, I'm like, you might have already heard this from Amanda.
So Laura once again is like, hey, we keep doing this same damn nursery rhyme, which is reading around the rosy, which is, pretty morbid. And she's like, can we please play something else? And Nellie is, nope. I'm kind of surprised that none of the other girls have gotten fed up with Nellie at this point. But Laura is like, nope, we're going to play something else. So Nellie shoves Laura down onto the dirt. And Laura keeps getting up and saying, nope, we're going to play something else. And so this repeats itself until Nellie ends up shoving Laura 3 times onto the ground. After the 3rd time, Laura gets up and she finally shoves back, as she should. So then
But also Mary didn't help at all.
No, she didn't do anything.
Stood by.
And we flash forward to Laura confessing to Ma and Pa that night what happened, which just gave me.
Why would she?
Yeah, they let her off the hook, basically saying, promise it'll never happen again. And Laura chimes in with I won't have to. She's scared of me now.
And I remember in this scene we get one of the classic Charles smirks, the kind of smile smirk.
Yes. One of the Carolyn is like, you weren't hard enough on her, which is like, make up your mind, Carolyn.
Yeah.
Because sometimes she's like, you're snapping at them too much, you're doing too much, and then this time she wasn't an ounce sorry. It's like, well, why should she be?
Yeah.
She
pushed her.
I love Nellie, but Nellie's being a bitch, and Nellie shoved her 3 times first before she reacted, and then again, I'm also like, where the fuck is Miss Beadle?
Yeah.
Just let some what
in the schoolhouse.
Wouldn't those be the days? Just like, go outside, children, and just leave them out for an hour and then
their own devices.
But anyways, after this, we have Ma saying that she's gonna win this battle between her and Harriet. So she goes into the mercantile with only white eggs.
She shows her,
and Harriet is dismay because she's like, where are the brown ones?
Yeah.
And she's like, I sold them to somebody else because they paid me more for them.
Yep.
So Harriet's fine. I will pay you the same. Just bring them to me from now on. And Ma's like, I showed you. And then Ma is admiring some pretty blue fabric, and Harriet jumps in right away and is like, this is not practical for living in the country, and she tries to sell her some ugly brown burlap stuff, but Ma's pride is getting the better of her, and so she's like, we will take this one, and she buys the expensive blue fabric.
Yes.
Which she regrets, but then the whole family says, if you're this beautiful, you have to have a beautiful dress.
Yes.
And they all encourage her, and we have a moment where she says, what am I gonna do with you? too. And she gets emotional over how much
how supportive her family is
Yes.
of her big dreams.
and her big purchases. I wish my husband was as supportive of my big purchases. I'm just kidding. Yeah,
As he walks in.
he's actually fine. He lets me put on a fashion show every time I buy clothes.
So after this, the girls have an exciting presentation at the school, and Mary, of course, is very excited. Laura is, you can kind of tell she's a little bit apprehensive about it.
So at the presentation, they're going to be reading something that they've written. They're having a visitor's day with all the parents coming, and they're going to read something that they've written. So we have the scene of the girls working on their pieces, and Laura knows what she wants to say, but she's struggling to write because she's not a. So we have the scene of them writing. Laura is starting to get nervous because she hasn't been able to write hardly anything. So we have this nice scene where Ma comforts Laura and says that she's worked really hard, and all anybody expects of her is to try her best, and she comforts her. Then Carolyn, bought the fabric to make a dress for her, but she stays up all night sewing, and then the next morning surprises Mary and Laura with 2 dresses for them.
Yes.
instead.
And they're overtaken with how sweet it is. And they both, thanks, Ma.
Yeah, and Charles is just staring in admiration at his
Yeah.
selfless wife. But no, it's a nice moment. Do you want to recap Nellie's speech?
Yeah, so I think Nellie basically just says that her parents own the shop, the general store. And
She just
she's like
talks ab-
talking about the things that they own.
She's basically like, we're the best. Like,
Yeah.
yes.
And then, I mean, that's all. But of course, Harriet is,
And
Nellie.
Nels is looking all like,
Yeah.
geez.
You can tell that it makes him uncomfortable. And then Willie
Talks
up.
talks about horses and
Yeah.
about his
just very random.
dad buying him a pony, and I like horses. It's actually really cute. Yeah. But so we have Willie's, and then we have Laura's speech.
Yes. Does Mary not give one?
No, Laura starts by saying, my sister Mary is going to tell you about
Okay.
Pa and our journey here. And she's like, and while Pa has done so much for us, and I don't mean to take away from that, I'm going to talk about my mama.
Yeah. So she's holding her paper, but she goes into this long, detailed explanation about how wonderful Ma is and the sacrifices she's made and how she's the most selfless person she knows. And she always makes sure that everybody else has what they need. And she's the best Ma anyone could ever have. And Laura's crying, Carolyn's crying, and Charles is just looking at his family happily. And then we don't hear Mary's speech.
No, we flash
Forward
to outside.
them being done with everything.
Nels walks out. He says, like, you must be very proud to Charles. And he's like, I am. You can tell Nels envies Charles. And then
Again,
Laura has a moment off to the side. She
Yeah.
goes and stands off to the side, and Ma approaches her. And she says, Laura, that was beautiful. And thank you.
not what you wrote, is it?
But that's not what you wrote. She's like, it's what I would have written if I could have. And then she unfolds the paper that she has. And I mean, it's not.
I think she just had like one sentence.
She said, like, Ma is good. Ma works hard.
Yeah.
I love my Ma, or something like that.
Which again, give the girl some credit. She just learned how to read and
Right. And even if she hadn't written that down, like, she memorized that. And it was a very moving speech.
Yeah, it was very heartfelt.
Yeah. But so Carolyn being Carolyn, it's like, you gotta go tell Miss Beadle. They walk into together.
Again, this is the second time in this episode that Laura has ratted herself out.
And then they walk in together, and she shows the paper to Miss Beadle. Carolyn's like, Laura would like to show you her paper. And she does, but Miss Beadle
doesn't care.
She's just like, well, your handwriting and spelling is getting much better. And I mean, it's just, she kind of like gives a knowing look, but like, she's like, I don't care. Like, and then they walk off into the distance as a happy little family.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is another happy ending.
Another happy ending. So 2 out of 3 so far.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Pretty positive.
Do we want to jump to our mini segments? Start with
Yes.
most bizarre moment.
Yeah, I don't feel like this one had too many.
We're doing a combo with our mini segments for both episodes. So for me, I put the most bizarre moment from what would technically be episode 1. Pa falling from the grain sacks.
Yeah.
And Mary and Laura watching from a distance. I was like, geez.
A little
It
weird.
was a little much.
Yeah.
Any standouts?
I guess from that one, I guess it's kind of biased, but I was gonna say Ma being
Mad at-
upset at Charles for working, and tending
Yeah.
to the fields.
That
on
was
Sunday.
a contender for me.
Like, she was fine with him sleeping and missing church, but working. Where she draws the line.
Trauma scale 1 to 10, 1 being very little, 10 being high. I put it at a 1.
Yeah, I think both of these.
I mean, we do have Paw fall from the tree. That's a little, but other than that, these episodes are pretty wholesome, pretty tame.
I mean, and he was only going to be down for 7 to 10 days. So.
Survivability, we determined that we needed to decide if we would survive the worst scenario in that episode.
Yes.
Or scenarios if there's more than one. So for us, we said like the falling from the tree and then the recovery process. That's really the only.
And I think especially the falling a second time.
Yes.
And then trying to stack hay with
Yeah.
broken ribs.
Yeah.
I don't
know if
I mean, I'd survive.
yeah, and I would survive but I mean, you factor into he's working like 12, 15-hour days and like
True.
not, and then he has to do chores when he gets home.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I struggle to work my like
Yeah.
9-hour days and then do my chores when I get home. I do, but
I do them. Sometimes I just don't. But
I would put survivability 1 being 0, 10 being high. I would put
1 being 0.
1 being 0, survivability. 1 being very little chance of surviving, and 10 being high.
Easy.
I would put it at an 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
And then we talked about we don't really think there's anything to survive in the Country Girls episode except maybe the tormenting of other children. But hey, we've all dealt with that.
Yeah.
So
I think that's pretty.
we make it through.
Honestly, I
scores.
feel like kids are worse now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, favorite line?
Okay, so mine is from episode 2.
Or technically episode 1.
Yeah.
Well, this is very confusing.
Yeah, I think that they just did that on streaming platforms to make it easier. This one is from Laura, and it's home is the nicest word there is.
Yeah, I made a note
That
of
one.
that. I made a note of that one. I said I have to agree, Laura.
Yeah.
I have to agree. I hate going out as well.
Yeah.
I liked that one, but my favorite I put snipe, long-legged snipes. So, that was my favorite one.
That one's really good.
So that was episode 1 and 2, or 2 and 3.
If you look at it.
However you like it. Whatever tickles your chickens. Tickles your chickens. I don't know. I was trying to make it Prairie connected somehow.
I like it. Okay.
Whatever sells your eggs.
Nice.
It's better.
Nice. All right. So,
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Little House Big Opinions.
bye.
Thanks for joining this week of Prairie Drama. We unpacked a little trauma. This is Little House, Big Opinions. See you next week for more wild decisions.